what you're saying. Sounds logical, Harry, about the daytime. I have no gallbladder anyway. Oh, okay. So that means you may be getting small. Yeah, you may be actually just getting, sort of uncontrolled amount that's coming through, and it tends in the night to actually slow down. So that's why you're not getting any problems at night. Yeah, that makes sense. And in the daytime, you're actually getting the normal flow, because normally you'd go into the gallbladder and then get secreted at the rate that is required specifically for the digestion, the amount, because depending on what you're eating, it goes into your stomach. Some food will get denatured, pull apart into its basic constituents of amino acids and fatty acids and simple sugars, and then that will be slowly absorbed. So the protein and the glucose will be in that middle part of the small intestine. At the bottom part of the small intestine is where the fat soluble vitamins and the fats get absorbed. So that's why you need to go right through and cleanse and with proper bile and have good concentrations of bile, and that comes from a taurine-based bile, not a glycine-based bile. But on the other hand, there's also the issue of getting it in the right amount. And in the daytime, you may have over-secretion because you don't have a gallbladder to control that secretion. So, yeah, that could cause a problem. Yeah, bummer. If you've had your gallbladder out, in the long run, it can take. I have heard of people. What actually happens is, over a sort of a decade or slightly more, sometimes up to 15 years for some people, it varies. The bile duct will actually create like this sort of cavity, it will create like its own sort of gallbladder, I really need somewhere to store this sort of stuff. So, and that will have better control over the flow. But, so it may be annoying for a number of years until you get to that stage. Yeah. Or you could shift eating like Bart does in the evenings, 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock around that time. That may improve certain things, play around and see how you go. There's a lot of variations because there's a lot of factors that can be at play, and without testing you thoroughly and doing a number of tests that I can't authorize because I'd have to ask you to go to your doctor and do, then it'd be hard to know exactly. But, play around with some of those suggestions and see how you go, and maybe change your meal timing a bit and the types of what you're actually consuming at certain times. And, so if you're doing like in the middle of the day, you add a bit of dairy as well. Some people notice when, rather at night, you don't, if you do it in the middle of the day, it seems to sort of slow down slightly that whole system, which also means that you end up avoiding the runs. And that's what people have found by adding a bit more dairy in, like cheese. You don't have to even go to milk. So if you want to avoid the carbs, just go to cheese and play around with that and see how that actually plays around. And that will also tell you that if you're missing like the lactobacillus and a couple of others, especially if you start getting, like harder stools, you'll immediately know, okay, I'm missing some of the lactobacillus, and I may have to do a kefir with lactobacillus to try and repopulate some of those missing things. So there's a lot of things when you play around and do a bit of experimentation with yourself, you can find out things that you're missing, because otherwise you can pay shitloads of money to do a lot of lab tests to try and work this out. And, it takes time and a lot of, so I think the ends of one type approach to check out things and try and test and experiment a bit isn't a bad idea. It sort of will save you money in the long run.